Good afternoon and welcome back to TaxCalc TV. As always, TaxCalc TV is on a mission to help accountants across the land with the insights and practical advice about making the most of your business. And this is part 2 of our series on sensible AI. In the last session, we explored the possibilities and the limitations of what what we can expect AI to do, at least as it stands now. But this week we are exploring the practicalities of how you can reduce the risks of AI when it is used in your firm. We're going to be learning what those risks are, how to identify them in your own practice, and how you need to structure your response to those for an optimum outcome. And to do that, we are joined once again by Salman Nasser, an expert in AI governance and a man who spends the majority of his time developing and implementing the standards that we all need to deliver safe AI usage. So, Sal, what have you been up to? How was last week?
Last week has been brilliant. We've been down at an accounting firm in Oxford. It's a 20 staff firm, and they had a real problem with people using all types of AI tools to try and speed up their work. And they had no idea who was using what. So we've been down there implementing our new AGAS certification and helping them get an understanding of what AI is being used in their firm.
Yeah, I guess very common, right? Very common.
Very common, yeah.
This is what we're going to solve today. So before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. Our regulars will know that yes, we will be sending out a recording of this at the end, so you don't need to take notes. The other thing is we do very much like and appreciate your comments, your questions as well. So your feedback throughout is really, really valuable to us. So you have two options. The chat is for everybody. So if you post something in there, everyone will see it. I know a whole bunch of you have already made good use of that. There is also the question section. So if you want to ask a very specific question, only us will see that. So that's a much more reliable way of getting a question in front of us. So the polls is the third thing. When I put a poll live, a small dot will appear on the red dot on the polls. So when Sal tells me to go, we will start using the polls. I think we're going to go straight into the poll.
Let's go straight into the first one.
The question for this one is pretty tough. It's going to keep you on your toes. So what we would like to know is, which of these have you personally used within the last 6 months? That should go red on your polls. Has it gone red? So we've got most people using ChatGPT, Copilot and Gemini, AI features. Most people are doing it. A very few people are saying none of the above, or they don't know. So thank you for doing that. That's very interesting. So that kind of leads us on to the first section. So we want to talk about what are we talking about when we're talking about AI here?
So I want to begin with a simple point, really. AI is not a future decision, just as we've seen now. Everybody is actually using AI within their accountancy firms already. Some of it is visible. People are using ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, drafting tools and things like that. And some of it is actually embedded, appearing within bookkeeping software, within tax software and payroll systems, as well as CRM as well, document management, and various other things. So some of it is informal, and some of it is being used by individual staff members, often with good intentions, but without the firm necessarily knowing what's going on.
So how much, if I'm using a bookkeeping software and it says it's got AI tools, how much of that is effectively ChatGPT with a different front end, and how much is that a unique tool in its own right?
So almost all of the tools that you see relate to one of the big tools. So Xero, Sage, they've all got AI built into them. Now they all use third-party vendors. Each one has their own one. Some of them might be with OpenAI, some of them might be with Anthropic, etc., etc. So none of them really have their own tool per se. They're using APIs to connect with the larger models, which are obviously being developed.
The ones we know about.
The ones you know about.
So those are so we really, it does all boil back down to ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok. Much?
I think not many people are using Grok at this present moment. Yeah.
And of course, everyone's friend Claude,
Yeah.
who is now part of most people's teams, I think.
Yeah.
So, so okay. So we're just going to get a sense there of what we're talking about. So what about the risks?
Yeah.
What risks are we facing?
Absolutely. So just before we move on to the risks, I'd like to actually talk a little bit about what AI actually means within a modern accountancy practice.
Yep.
And that starts with recognizing that AI is actually much broader than just ChatGPT. So I'm obviously from an AI governance background, so that's the point of view that I'm going to be taking here. But when people hear about AI governance, they sometimes think of large compliance programs and lots of paperwork, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about AI governance as a simple system that a firm can use to make sure that AI is being used safely, appropriately, and with human accountability. And it starts with visibility. So what tools are being used, who is using them, who's approved them, what information is being put into them, who checks the outputs. So what uses are low risk and what uses are high risk, and which require approval and which don't. So can the firm show what's happened if a client, insurer, regulator, or partner asks? Do staff know what is allowed, what is restricted, and what is prohibited? So that's really what governance is really about. Some firms that I've spoken to, about 20% of firms actually have some kind of AI policy. A policy is useful, but a policy alone is not governance. You can have a policy sitting in SharePoint while staff are using personal accounts, uploading client documents, and no one has really reviewed those. So governance is really about how firm behaves in reality, not just what it says on paper.
So you say 20% of firms have kind of got a policy in place.
Some sort of policy.
And how many have kind of gone the whole hog and really kind of made sure that that policy is effective and useful?
There's very few. So I was talking about the accountancy firm that I was with last week in Oxford. They actually had a policy governing their AI. But when I went and queried some of the accountants and asked them if they know about the policy, they knew there was a policy, but they had no idea what was in the policy itself. So a policy just by itself is only part of the governance. What we're going to go through today are some practical steps that you can actually take within your firm to get a much better visual idea of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like we've got a very low bar at the moment.
Very low
to get over. Okay.
Yeah. So what I think would be great is if we could go on to the second poll, which is asking everybody about what area they're most concerned about AI within their firms.
Of course. So I'm going to put that live now. What concerns you most about AI in your firm? So incorrect answers or hallucinations, client confidentiality or data protection, staff using unapproved tools, poor quality of work, over-reliance, or AI taking actions without proper review. So it looks like the big issues are client confidentiality, data protection, that's coming up with most people, or incorrect answer or hallucinations. And that we covered that hallucinations before, and I thought that was fascinating about how, and we're going to be doing more on that as well in future sessions. The staff using unapproved tools is in fact coming out as the the least. Only 9% of people are saying that the unapproved tools issue.
It's interesting.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Either we've got a really clued up bunch of accountants on
I
call,
expect that's the case.
or it could be what is known as shadow AI, which is what we'll talk about a little bit later on, where people are using AI without formally having approval or letting anyone know that they're using that AI.
Yes, so that's where no one knows about that one, and they're doing it from home or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So you're not surprised by those results?
Not really. No, that seems to be pretty similar to what most people are thinking across the industry.
Okay.
So let's look at what can go wrong within an accounting practice. So let's look at what counts as being AI within an accounting practice first. So it includes generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini. It includes the embedded tools and things like that. So what can actually go wrong? So hallucinations, definitely, and false confidence. AI can give answers that are fluent, confident, and professionally written, but are still wrong. Fake citations. So we'll cover this in a couple of the case studies that I've got late in just a moment. But it can invent legislation, tribunal cases, HMRC guidance even, technical standards and source material as well. Just make them up. Confidentiality, which was a big one from our poll, and data leakage. So if a client or personal data goes into an unapproved tool, the firm may not know where that data is going, where it's stored, whether it's retained, and what supplier actually controls it.
I'd just like to go to the chat. You guys out there, have you experienced direct issues yourselves where you've used HMRC, you've used ChatGPT or whatever, whichever model, and you have discovered fake citations. You've been told that the law says a certain thing or precedent says a certain thing, and that's turned out to be untrue. I'd love to hear your impression. So please do throw that into the chat.
Yeah, so just continuing with what can go wrong and the risk areas. So we mentioned shadow AI as well, where you don't have visibility of what's being used. But there's also other concerns as well. So, for example, over-reliance and de-skilling. So a junior may produce something that looks really polished, but may not understand the technical basis behind it. So it's not really helping with their training part of it. Another problem that I've seen rising is a bias and inappropriate recommendations as well, particularly around recruitment, credit control, risk scoring, and client treatment as well.
Bias, could you just elaborate on that a little?
So bias in terms of all of these engines, these LLMs, large language models, they have certain biases built in. They are obviously trying to get rid of those biases, but they are there nonetheless. And it's very difficult to figure out what kind of bias it actually has. And there are certain things that you can do to control that bias. And later on, when we look at how to do a good prompt, we'll look at how to try to avoid those biases as well.
So that could be, for example, in recruitment, it favors women over men over women. Is that what we're talking about?
That kind of thing, exactly. It's very difficult to explain what kind of bias might be unless I've got a particular scenario. But in the scenario that you've just mentioned around recruitment, that is exactly what we're seeing, where sometimes people for no reason are being pushed to the side, and other people are being pushed to the forefront, through no fault of their own.
Right, and we don't know where that's coming from.
We don't know where that's coming from. We can probably find out by doing research, but what we do know is that there are biases built in, so we need to try and make sure that we counteract that.
And is there a a kind of register, if you like, where people can say, hey, I'm seeing more bias from ChatGPT in a certain direction around a certain subject? Is that being recorded?
Not yet. But there are also biases that you can introduce into ChatGPT or Gemini as well. So, as you know, a lot of these tools actually have memory built into it. So when you're talking about a particular subject, it retains that knowledge. And then when you ask it another question a few days later or a month later, it may refer back to just that random conversation that you're doing and use that as a bias on the answer that it gives.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Also, there are cybersecurity risks that we also need to think about. So we now need to think about things like phishing, deep fakes, malicious documents, and also prompt injection. And finally, the last thing that I wanted to mention here is audit trail. So if AI has influenced the client deliverable, can you show what's actually happened, who reviewed it, and where the final professional judgment was applied? So the key point is that AI does not remove professional responsibility. In fact, it increases the importance of professional responsibility.
Couple of quick questions. So, well, Hannah says her main concern, my client's use of AI to replace advice or turning on AI tools in the software without discussion and creating headaches with errors. So I presume, Hannah, you're talking about bookkeeping errors maybe, or accounting errors. But yeah, this extends beyond use it in the firm itself.
Yeah.
There's the client issue as well, right? So how firms are controlling that. Have you seen that spin up issues?
I've not seen the knock-on effect so much, probably because it is still early doors with AI being adopted. But it is something that we'll probably see more and more of, where your clients themselves will actually come to you with AI problems that maybe they are professionally using AI for themselves and don't have any control as well. So it makes sense that the accountancy firms get a good grasp of what they're doing with their AI governance, and that can then filter down to their clients as well.
Yeah, I mean, would you recommend that accountants speak to their clients about how they're using AI?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know how many of you in the chat there have had the issue where your client has come to you determined that they're correct about a certain thing that potentially isn't accurate. Is that, you must have come across this?
Yeah, so occasionally I have seen where a client has come to an accountant and said, I've used ChatGPT to try to help me with this particular tax problem or something, and this is what it's suggesting. And it might be something completely right. It might be right, but it could be completely wrong as well.
Yeah, but that's it's probably not going to be helpful when your clients come to you with, I guess it's the doctor when he first discovered Google.
Yeah.
Quite painful.
It's exactly that problem. Yeah.
So, okay, so we've got the risks, but you've got some real life case studies.
That's right. So let's make this real. I've got 3 case studies that I'd like to go through. And it's not about mocking these large firms that have been caught.
Oh, why not?
It's about learning from their governance failures. And although I'm only going to be going through 3 very large, well-known cases, there are actually hundreds of cases which don't get reported. So a lot of these private firms, they would like to obviously keep these things private, and they do. Sometimes we get leaks, especially the large public firms that we're about to have a look at. So the first case that I'd like to show is the Deloitte Australia case. And this is a really useful warning because it involved professional work, a public sector client, and a report that appeared authoritative. So Deloitte agreed to refund part of a government payment after a report prepared for Australia's Department of Employment for Work and Relations contained multiple errors, including fabricated references, a fake court quote as well. The revised report disclosed that generative AI had been used in preparing that work. The important point is not whether AI created every individual error. The point is that the incorrect references and the false quote made it into the professional report. That's where the problem actually is. That tells us something about the control failure. There was not enough source verification, essentially, in this case. There was not enough review before the publication, and there was not a sufficiently clear human owner saying that I have checked this and I stand behind it. And for accountancy practices, the lesson is straightforward. AI can assist with drafting, structure, research as starting points, but it cannot be trusted as a source of law, tax guidance, accounting standards, or case authority without manual verification. If AI produces advice, a report, or a file note, the firm still owns the output. So this leads on to the next case study. So KPMG is an example similar, but it's particularly striking because the report itself was actually about AI. So KPMG removed a report on agentic AI after reporting identified inaccurate claims about how named organizations were using AI, alongside concerns about citations and supporting evidence.
So they had been commissioned to write a report into the use of AI, gone to AI to write it, and the AI had used given them incorrect information to put in that report.
Very ironic, isn't it?
I'm speechless, but not surprised.
And this was KPMG, so if it can happen in the biggest firms, it's something that we really need to be looking at our small to medium tiered firms as well. So again, it wasn't simply that AI was involved. The problem was that the material, which looked professional, researched and authoritative, was not sufficiently verified before publication. So this is where firms need to understand the danger of plausible looking content. A polished report with case studies and with references can create a false sense of confidence. The layout looks really credible, the language looks exactly right, and the sources look credible as well. But unless somebody actually checks the claims and the sources, it might still be wrong. And in this case, it was.
But those claims are going to be becoming harder and harder to verify because of the amount of kind of AI generated content out there that is also feeding off of that. There was an interesting piece I was reading where I think it was in one of the broadsheets, we should say, and they had posted a report about some of these case studies, and they were saying that basically carping at how some of these big institutions were using AI and making mistakes. And it was right next to another article where halfway down the article, it clearly said, this is a great opening paragraph. Here's a couple of other headlines you could use. And they had just cut and pasted that directly out of ChatGPT.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing that across all sectors at the moment. And for accountancy firms, it's especially relevant for technical reports, client advice, tax research, etc. Having a named human owner for the final output to verify these citations and case studies. The third case that I wanted to just quickly highlight is the Ernst & Young Canada, and it's perhaps the clearest example of citation problems. So EY Canada case is useful because it directly handled those, it is directly about AI hallucinations, sorry. So EY Canada actually withdrew a cybersecurity report on fraud in loyalty systems after GPT-0 researchers identified serious citation issues. Their analysis actually found that many references were fabricated, misattributed, or linked to sources that simply didn't exist. It just made them up. So one of the important lessons here is what I call authority laundering problem. So a leak or obscure claim can become much more credible when it is repeated in a major publication and attributed to a recognizable source. So for accountants, the controls are clear. To verify every material citation, make sure that every statistic is a traceable source, and to check that the sources actually claim what we expect them to. Consistency checks are also really important. If the same statistics appears twice, does it mean the same thing both times? So now that we've looked at these three case studies, what I'd like to do is move to the next section, and I think there's another poll.
There is, but before we do that, I do want to put a poll, the poll live, because it's time for the commercial break.
Okay, let's get the commercial break.
So if we could put the next poll live, if I can do that from here, I think. Bear with me. So I'm putting a poll live, which is designed to allow you to indicate whether you would like any follow-up on any of this. So just to be clear, TaxCalc TV is indeed a product of TaxCalc and Engager. So these are the incredible award-winning software combination that delivers powerful, intuitive tax and accounts compliance, as well as full end-to-end practice management. That brings you efficiency by automating everything from customer onboarding, pricing and proposals, to email communications and workflow. It's all fully integrated in the cloud and backed by a reliable UK-based telephone support. You can indicate in the poll that I've just put live whether you would like to receive any follow-up on any of our products, or indeed from Sal about his AI practice health check. What's that, very quickly?
So we're offering free health checks to all UK accountancy firms. We do that simply online. We take approximately 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of firm, and we help you get a grasp of how to implement safe controls within your firm.
So where those risks are.
Yeah.
So you can indicate that in the poll at the bottom, and if there happen to be any customers in the chat who would like to tell everyone why they should use TaxCalc and Engager, please do, be very grateful. A question here from Sharon. As internet browsers such as Google use AI, is the risk the same as if you use ChatGPT, which can be incorrect? So Google being Gemini, I mean, essentially
they can all be incorrect. They can all hallucinate. Every single LLM can hallucinate, no matter what safeguards and guardrails they have in place. So we need to be careful.
And the hallucination is built in. It's basically how this system works.
Yes.
So it has to allow for some kind of hallucination. And
exactly. So we spoke about this in the last webinar that we did, where we had deterministic versus probabilistic.
Yeah.
So all these LLMs are probabilistic, and because they are based on probability, there is always a chance that they can hallucinate, which is why humans as a review is really, really important.
And there was a comment in the chat, which I can't quite catch now, but about how, I mean, I do like the notion from Susan that ChatGPT replaced the man in the pub. So that's still there. But the idea that, I guess, with whether AI tools can overtake software where you cannot tolerate hallucinations, you cannot tolerate a non-binary answer, I guess.
Yeah.
Is a question. It may be able to, but it is a question. Okay, sorry, I digressed.
So did we send out that last poll?
Oh, no, I sent out a different poll, but the last poll is, does your firm know which AI tools that your staff are using today? So if you've got members of staff, how confident are you that you know what they are doing? And got about a third saying yes, we have an approved tool list. But do you know that they are sticking to it is the question, I guess. Partly, but not comprehensively is the other third. And then no, not really is coming in with a very, very strong third place on that one. So some people doing really, really well, probably. Others with a little bit more work to do.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'd like to talk a little bit about how we can counteract these risks, which we'll go into a little bit detail a bit later on. So let's move on to finding out just how to prompt really well. So think of AI as a fast junior assistant, and that's really how we should be thinking about it. It can draft, structure, summarize, and generate ideas really quickly, but does it reliably know what matters in your particular situation? So I've taken this simple example, and apologies that there's a lot of writing on here. This will be shared with everybody, so you will be able to look at it. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a prompt, really. And the prompt might be explain VAT. Now that is a really bad prompt. There's nothing technically wrong with the question, but it gives the system almost nothing to work with. Explain VAT to whom? A new sole trader? Is it a limited company? A finance director? Are we asking about registration, returns, flat rate scheme, or something else? Do we want a technical explanation? Do we want a checklist? And most importantly, do we want the AI to flag uncertainty, or are we accidentally inviting it to sound confident even when we are unsure? So let's rebuild this one prompt step by step so that we can understand how to actually build a much, much better prompt. So the first is context. Okay, so we must tell the AI what context we're working with. So a good context in this instance would be something like the client is a UK limited company director approaching the VAT threshold. That immediately gives a really good starting point. It knows the audience, the jurisdiction, and the scenario. The next part of the prompt should always be the task. Okay, so to be specific about what you want it to do. So not just explain VAT. Instead, explain the difference between VAT registration, VAT returns, and VAT payment deadlines in plain English. So that would be the exact words that you would then use. So now what we've done is we've told it exactly what topic to cover and what level of language to actually use. The third thing that you need to then put in for that prompt are constraints. Okay, and this is something that a lot of people forget. And this is one of the most important safety tools to tell it what it must not do. Okay, so for example, do not invent legislation, case law, or HMRC references. Do not make up assumptions without identifying. Actually type that into the prompt itself. This doesn't guarantee that AI will never make anything up. Nothing in a prompt does that, but it reduces ambiguity and it makes the AI more likely to flag uncertainty, and it reminds the user what they need to check.
It's just strange that in what world would you ever want, please make up the legislation to be a positive? So the fact that you have to put that in, just seems, maybe we're just in the foothills of AI.
I think it's understanding how you need to speak to AI, and that's really what this little section is about.
Okay.
Then what I would then do is, in that prompt, is also put the output format. So tell it how you want the answer delivered. So for example, format the answer as a short, friendly client email. It then knows how to deliver that. Or you might say, put this into a table with issue, what we know, and what is missing. And it will then go away and do that. The format matters because it makes the output immediately usable and easier to review, rather than just a big chunk of text that you then have to copy paste and then redoing the format. So let's build that into the prompt itself. And the final thing that I would add as the prompt, and again, this is often forgotten, are to add checks. So to ask the AI to show its uncertainty rather than hide it. So for example, to actually type in, list any assumptions, flag anything that needs to be checked manually before sending. So this is really useful because it turns the AI from a pretend expert into a drafting assistant, essentially, and it helps you identify those gaps.
So there are definitely things that you can do that are going to reduce the reliance on the outputs, or at least the risks of relying on the outputs.
Exactly.
But this doesn't do things like address, I mean, what came up in the poll, which was a big concern about things like client data security, which was one of the bigger issues. I think we're going to be talking about that.
Yeah, so we'll get onto the risks in just a moment. Yeah, absolutely. So just to run through those 6 principles again, just to make sure that everybody's fully understood them. The first is to give context, role, audience, and situation. The second one is then say what not to do. For accounting work, that often means do not invent stuff, as we discussed. The third is then to ask for assumptions. Fourth is then to ask for uncertainty. And fifth is to challenge itself. And if you follow those prompt rules, you'll generally end up with a really good, high quality prompt, and the output will be closer to what you actually need.
Fabulous.
So one extra point before you use any prompt is do not paste confidential client information into a tool unless that tool is approved for that type of data. So whilst you're building your tool register, with each tool, note down which ones are approved for client data and which ones aren't. A brilliant prompt in the wrong tool is still a governance problem. Use anonymized facts where possible. So you can just remove names and put them in, and remove particular things that could cause problems. Account numbers, addresses, and things like that, and just work with placeholders until you're actually working in an approved environment. So essentially the takeaway is simple. Better prompts give you better drafts, but a better prompt does not turn AI into a qualified accountant or a tax advisor, auditor, or any type of legal authority. Never trust the first answer. And often when I'm prompting, I'll say to it, I didn't like your answer, come back and do it again. And it will then go back and use your original prompt and try and work it out in a different way. So check the facts, check the sources, and apply human judgment. AI drafts, human decides.
Okay, wise words.
Okay, so I'd like to then move to from the risks. Sorry, it just doesn't change there. So now what we'll do is we'll move to the section which we highlight the risks. So shadow AI, which we mentioned earlier, is not usually malicious.
So what is shadow AI, Sal?
So shadow AI is AI being used without approval. So it could be somebody within your firm who has got to send an email really quickly to a client, and they've decided, even though ChatGPT isn't approved within our firm, it can't be that bad if I just type in a quick prompt and get a quick email, and I'll just copy and paste it into Outlook and then I'll send it off. That is shadow AI.
I can say with certainty that no one here has had that experience. Absolute certainty. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly. So it is happening across every industry at the moment, because people are using these tools outside of work and they're finding them incredibly useful, and they're seeing how they could improve their workflow. So shadow AI is on the rise. And what we want to do is we want to try and get visibility. So I think people understand now what shadow AI is, and visibility is the only thing that can really help with it. So as you can see, I've put on a slide onto the screen, and this kind of allows you to see how we can categorize our various AI tools. So there are some which are going to be generally permitted, and they're going to be low risk. So I would have no problem in rewriting internal emails using ChatGPT or a tool like that. Summarizing public guidance, that's also fairly low risk. Marketing and generic checklists and meeting agendas, those are all fairly low risk things. They don't really affect.
But is there risk? I mean, we talked about like client data, for example, and if I used a LLM to summarize a meeting where confidential things are discussed, that's stepping outside of safety.
Exactly.
So
yeah, so
depends what the meeting's about. Right?
It depends what the meeting is about. Exactly right. So you have to use your judgment and see where the data actually falls. Is it public? Is it internal? Is it classified? You know, and so on. So if it's publicly available material, then that's probably fine to use. But if you've got a confidential board meeting that you're discussing some proprietary intellectual property, then probably not.
So if someone is transcribing, and we've all been in meetings where someone pops in and then their note taker comes in with them, how should you treat that? I mean, how should you go say, we don't know who that is or what that is? Should you by default kick those out? What's the best practice?
It depends what's being discussed. So what is the meeting?
Assuming there is going to be something.
If there is, then you can actually reject those bots.
Yeah,
and you can kick
you.
You should. So if something sensitive is being discussed and you know that confidential information is going to be discussed within this meeting, then absolutely say, you know, we're going to pause the recording. So a lot of these features do have a pause button as well, where you can stop it, or you can just simply kick them out.
But are any of those note takers, could they be defined as safe and walled off, if you like, or does it basically, do you assume that anything that's said in one of those meetings is then unsecure? And
so this is where the AI tools register that we spoke about right at the beginning comes into play. So you would list the tool in your AI.
We're coming on to that, right? So I don't want to
no,
I don't want to jump ahead. I've been accused of doing that before.
No, it's fine. We can talk about it now. So an AI tool register actually helps you understand what tools you have, and for you to go away and do a little bit of research on each tool as well. So when you're looking at a particular bot that you can add for meeting notes, because this is probably the most common one that people use at the moment, you look through their documentation and see where their data is being stored. So sometimes their data or your data is being stored only within your own gated environment.
Yes.
In which case, nobody else can actually see that. And that's then completely fine. But you must go through and check with each of the vendors what the case is and write that into your tool register so that you're aware of that. And you can say, yep, this tool is absolutely fine because we own the data. It's only being used on EU servers, so it's not in America. So the NSA can't spy on that data. You know, various things like this you can go through. The AI register will really help you get a handle of that.
But to be clear, the risk is not that data could be compromised by someone, you know, walking into that building and looking at it, but it is available because it's in the cloud,
Yeah.
and it could be used by other AIs who would maybe
Bad actors, yeah.
So what if your client shows up with a bot? The conversation, any confidential information is going to be about the client.
Yeah.
But they turn up with a unapproved meeting transcriber.
Yeah.
What should your approach be there?
So one of the things that you could do is you could say, we prefer to use our bot, and there's no need to have lots of bots. We will then share that transcription with you, and those notes with you. That way you retain control of that. You're using a tool that you've approved, and it will work much better and lower your risk that way. So I think it's completely fine to actually tell people, please don't use your bot. We have an approved one.
Okay.
And work like that. So looking at the other risks on here, so there are some medium risks I put in amber. So things like drafting client emails, drafting reports, summarizing client data, I would flag those as amber. Then some of the high risk ones are obviously things that need a lot of review: tax advice, audit judgments, payroll decisions, AML risk assessments, things like that. Those are all high risk. And at a certain point, you'll also want to ban particular tools. So I would suggest the first one on there, which is full client records in public AI tools. So that's the free ChatGPT, that's the free Gemini, because they don't have the ability for you to actually
to wall that off.
To wall that off, exactly.
And just to be clear, so if somebody was to upload an amount of customer data, a spreadsheet full of customer data, are we saying that someone else using ChatGPT could in some way interrogate that, could be persuade?
Not really. So that's extremely unlikely that would actually happen. The more likely scenario is that OpenAI, or whatever tool you're using, will actually use that data for training. So if you've put names and things like that, then that data gets uploaded into the new version of ChatGPT, essentially, and that could be exposed.
So, exactly. So that's what I mean. So say my UTR and my name is in a spreadsheet that gets uploaded to ChatGPT for one purpose.
Yeah.
Someone could say, what's Andy's UTR? And ask ChatGPT, and it goes, oh, I have that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it would tell them.
It could tell them. It could tell them. The danger is there.
So it's a huge, huge risk.
Absolutely. So I would ban all public AI tools. And by public AI tools, I mean the free versions that people are generally using. So with your tool register, you will essentially categorize them into these four categories, which will help you get an understanding and visibility of the tools within your firm. So once you have the visibility and risk classification, you can introduce practical controls without creating huge bureaucracy. So I know we're starting to approach the end of this, so I'll try and summarize here.
We haven't even got to the meat in the sandwich yet.
Yeah,
so we've got some valuable stuff to cover. So
yeah, absolutely. So I'll try and rush through this. So control 1 that I put on here, these are the 10 practical controls. So the first one is to control an AI tool register, which we've just spoken about. The second control.
Sorry, I know we are short sort of time, but what is the best practice to create that register? Because if you ask any individual, you'll say, well, I use X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You've got to go around every single person. And how do you kind of validate whether they've included everything that they use? They may not even consider what they use as a.
Yeah. So
how do you do that?
So some firms I've been to have been a bit frightened to ask all of their staff because they don't think they're going to get a right answer. And sending a formal email to ask them for this type of thing generally doesn't work. The best practice here, I find, is to actually just be honest with them and be open with them and sit down and just have a conversation. What tools are you actually using? It's really important that we understand which tools we have so that we can pay for the tools as well. So then you'll get a much better tool once you're using a paid version rather than the free versions. But generally, you need to have that conversation. You can't get away without that. There are several ways to create a tool register. You could use Excel. Although I'm biased, we have a free AI tool register that you can find on our website that actually goes through and categorizes the risk. By all means, feel free to use that.
We'll share the link to that.
Yeah. So after you've got visibility, you've got the tool register, create an approved tool list, which follows on from that. So the key is that staff should not have to guess which tool they can use and which tool they shouldn't be using. Okay. So the third control is then to introduce traffic light risk ratings. So just as I showed you, not every AI use case is on the same level. And so we need to determine what the risk is.
So using that that you shared earlier, that will be in the slides.
That's a great way of doing it. It's a great way.
So what are you using this for?
Exactly.
That's where the attention should be.
So control 3 is introducing light traffic risk ratings. So I put the fourth control as setting clear data handling rules. So for most firms, this is one of the most important controls. So staff need to understand exactly what information must not go into unapproved tools. So generally that includes client names, addresses, account numbers, payroll data, all of those usual things. And where possible, to use anonymized or fictionalized information. So replace named with client A and company X and things like that. Just make it really straightforward for yourself. The fifth control is accountability. So somebody needs to own the governance. So that doesn't necessarily mean hiring a brand new person, not at all. In a smaller firm, it may be a partner, it might be the IT lead, it might be compliance manager or practice manager. But the important thing is that staff know who to ask for. Somebody who then becomes an expert in knowing what tools are approved, what data is approved, and everything around those tools, essentially.
And do you come across that existing already?
I have seen that, yes. So human in the loop, as it's known as, is quite a large part of AI governance. But sometimes people have inadvertently thought that is the main thing that they should be doing. It's only part of it. So human in the loop only works if the human knows who they are. Right, what responsibilities? Absolutely. Yeah, so I have known where somebody has been assigned as the human in the loop. They were told about it, but they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It was just a name on a bit of paper. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about somebody who actually has responsibility and they become the person who's responsible for the tools.
Right.
And that leads on to the sixth control. So that person should then be training the staff properly. So the sixth control is training. So most AI incidents will not happen because somebody is trying to cause harm. They happen because they're trying to save time and they don't understand the risk. So the training should cover things like hallucinations, fake citations, data protection, shadow AI, things like that. We also offer staff training, and there are many people who offer staff training for this. We can come in and train your staff to that effect. Control 7 is then to define human review rules. So going that step further from just naming a person, actually define what those rules actually mean. So AI can draft, AI can structure, AI can summarize, but a human must review and sign off.
So you need to codify that and make sure everyone is agreed and on point with it.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Control 8 is then to create an incident reporting process. So this is when something goes wrong or you get caught out in some sort of way. Firms need to assume that mistakes will happen at some point. Someone may discover a fabricated citation on a report, an AI tool may have been used, to create an unexpected output or expose information. So the key is not to punish people for reporting. The key is to make it easy for reporting to happen early. Staff should know who to tell, what information to provide, and what immediate action that they can take right now to remedy the problem.
So in the same way with GDPR,
Exactly.
it's a similar sort of process.
Yeah, I mean, these processes have come from various places and they work, they're robust. The ninth control is then to review suppliers. So I alluded to this a little bit earlier on when we were talking about the AI register. So to review suppliers and the embedded AI features. Many firms think that they're not even using AI because they've not bought ChatGPT licenses and things like that. But AI is now embedded within Xero and within CRM and even within Excel. So, we need to review those suppliers, see what sort of rules that they actually have, where is the data being stored, is the data being used for training, etc.
So that point, when we were talking earlier about ultimately this boils down to, what is it, say the big four of ChatGPT, Claude, maybe Grok and Gemini, because Copilot is ChatGPT as far as
Yeah.
So you've got those big four. So really, is it that those four are the ones that you need to be able to go to, or do you need to go to Microsoft or Sage? Or
Yeah, so you actually need to go to the individual tools, because what they do is they put their own guardrails around and have their own policies. So the way that they access OpenAI or Anthropic is through APIs. And that may be bypassing some of the guardrails that you see on the web interface. So Xero, Sage, whoever is using them, they have their own guardrails in place and they have their own policies.
So you may have 5 pieces of software that are all effectively using ChatGPT,
Yeah.
but you need to validate with each of them how they're treating the data.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long.
Okay.
Most of that information is available quite easily on the internet, so you can find that out. So then moving on to the 10th control, which I put on here, which is really important, is to periodically review. So AI is changing quickly. It's changing quicker than anything that we've ever seen before. And I would suggest that at the moment we should have a review sort of every 6 months to a year, because the tools are changing so quickly and adoption is, really skyrocketing.
And just if you could very quickly just sort of describe for someone who's never done this kind of thing before, how do you conduct that review? What are you literally just going to their website and looking at, or are you going further than that?
Yeah, so the review that I'm talking about here is actually reviewing all the other points that I've just mentioned.
I see, but with the review of the vendor review.
The vendor review, so going back to point 9.
Yes.
So you would then do that point 9 again on a 6 monthly to a yearly basis,
Yeah.
to make sure that Xero haven't changed their terms, that Sage hasn't changed their terms, or ChatGPT hasn't changed their terms, because that can quite easily happen. These vendors very quickly change their various terms and conditions, often without telling you.
Yeah.
Well, so you need to go out and find out. Okay, the last thing that I really wanted to show everybody was 5 really practical, useful steps that they can take right now to get a hold of AI use within their firm. So number 1 is asking staff what tools they're using. Second is to create a basic register. Third is to create one clear rule. Do not put client data or personal data into unapproved tools. The fourth is then to introduce a simple traffic light approach. And the fifth is to give people basic training on how to use AI tools effectively within your environment.
Fabulous. So, you're a mine of information. Thank you very much. Doing your best to keep us all safe in this world of AI. It's interesting. I was away with some friends over the weekend. We've known each other since we were kids, and pretty much the entire conversation was around AI for the whole weekend. And it's become everywhere. It's become ubiquitous in such a short period of time. So much so that we're going to talk about it some more in our next session. So we're going to be taking just a couple of weeks off, but we're going to be back on the 22nd of July. We've got Alistair Barlow coming in, who is going to take us on a deep dive into perfecting those prompts and how using context can generate some really useful results. And he's promised to answer the question about whether or how many R's in the word strawberry challenge always breaks ChatGPT, which I'm very much looking forward to. So join us for that. It's 22nd of July, and I'll quickly add that link in the chat. Thank you very much, Sal. Really appreciate you coming along again.
Pleasure.
Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, rest of the month, and we will see you on the 22nd of July, and we will be in Manchester at Accountex, so please do come and join us there as well. All the very best. Thank you.